Couple of housekeeping notes. During the panel, you'll be able to ask questions. We've got a website up where you can ask a question through your phone. If you go to mHUB.cnf.io, you can submit a question. If you forget CNF, it's like conference, so just remember mHUB.cnf.io. Also, for those social followers out there, the hashtag is mHUB 1 year celebration, so please use that to support us on social media. I'm going to kick things off introducing to you one of our members, Mike Rafferty of KV Gear. He's going to give a 2-minute pitch on his product and what he's doing here at mHUB. Welcome, Mike.
Morning, everybody. Back in June of last year, I was visiting Chicago to reacquaint myself with some old clients and drum up business for my engineering consulting firm when one of them suggested I come to mHUB. So I'd never heard of the place. I came over here, took a tour, and it was love at first sight. I knew this is where I had to be to run my businesses, but there was a problem because I don't live in Chicago. I actually live in Madison, Wisconsin. So after some thinking and soul searching, I recalled that my sister lives here in Chicago. So set up an arrangement where I commute one. It took a while to think of that. I was resigned to not being able to come to mHUB. So I set up an arrangement where I commute one time per week from Madison to Chicago, stay at her place 2 nights a week, and then I come into mHUB and just cram in as much work as I can during the short week I have. And it's been a really successful experience. I've got 2 businesses I run here. One is Rafferty Engineering, which is a product development consulting firm, and the other is KV Gear, which designs and manufactures accessories for use by electronic musicians. Both of those companies have grown quite a bit, and I attribute a huge amount of that success to what mHUB has had to offer. mHUB has the facilities and the equipment that I can use. I'm able to do in-house prototyping and production, which I can do at a much lower cost than I could do elsewhere. But besides just the cost is the convenience. In the past, I often didn't prototype my ideas because I didn't want to go through the hassle and the cost of finding an outside shop to make my stuff for me, and I let a lot of ideas go. But now that I'm here and it's easy, I prototype almost all of my ideas, and a lot of them turn out to be successful. But besides just the facilities and the equipment or the people, it's inspiring coming in here all the time and seeing so many people doing so much interesting and good work that I feel like some of their success is going to rub off on me, so it brings my energy level up. But besides just that, I get a lot out of literally working with the people. I can see what they do and what they're good at, and I'm able to hire some of them on project basis to help me with my work because I just don't have the time to do all the work myself. So I could not have grown as much as I have without the labor and the resources that these people and the community and the organization of mHUB that they've offered to me. So I'm extremely grateful to that. And I know this sounds like a paid infomercial, but this is actually my real experience, so I'm really happy to talk about it briefly and let you guys know about it. So thanks for listening.
Thanks, Mike, so much for sharing your experience here. I want to introduce our moderator for this panel, Zach Kaplan, the founder and CEO of Inventables. Zach, come on up. I also have to tell you that if it wasn't for Zach, mHUB wouldn't exist. He was the guy that told me just to go ahead and rent a building and kick things off. So thank you, Zach, for that. Next up, Victoria Holt, the president and CEO of Proto Labs. Welcome. Next, we have Ed Coleman from Bethel New Life. And Sasha Neri from the Chicago Public Library. And I'll be joining this panel as well. Thank you.
Thanks, Bill. So I thought, well, first, actually, I want to thank GE because prior to that point where I said go rent the building, Karen was talking about how GE is supportive of entrepreneurship and innovation and realized a few years ago that all the greatest innovations were not going to come out of GE's R&D labs. And so at Inventables, we got invited to participate in something they called the GE Garage, where they basically had a mobile mHUB. The first one was at South by Southwest. And I remember they were sitting in our conference room, and they said, we understand we're a big corporation, but we want to be part of the maker community. I said, okay. They said, what's one thing we could do to really be part of the community and be a partner with you as opposed to just an evil big corporation that bosses you around? So I paused after I laughed, like you guys. And I said, and we had worked with GE for many years prior, and I said, really it would be like if you guys paid with a credit card on our website as opposed to putting us through GE Get Services, would be net 120. And they laughed and said, okay, yeah, we'll pay with credit card. And I was like, cool. And so that, in my head, that was sort of the beginning of mHUB, because that was a hugely successful event for us. We got invited to participate back, and I convinced the fine folks at GE to have a location for the GE garage in Chicago. And it was on Michigan Avenue, and at the time, Bill had been talking about, hey, let's get a 50,000 square foot place together with all these machines and all these people. It'd be great. We'll have like a year-end celebration. And I was like, okay, how about we have like a chat at the GE garage? And he's like, okay. So the first chat was very similar to this, and it was, what is that, 4 years ago now?
Yeah, about 4.5.
About 4.5 years ago, and there was about, maybe some of the people in this audience were there. But that conversation got started in the GE garage. So thank you, GE and Karen, for doing that. Okay, so for today, we have 4 folks here. So I'm Zach, I'm the CEO of Inventables. If you could just introduce who you are and what you do at your company, or what your company does, or your organization, so everybody understands. Starting with you, Vicki.
Okay, thank you, Zach. I do have to start by saying it's fantastic to be here as well. I have never been to this mHUB facility before, and it is incredibly impressive. And I agree with Karen, a lot of creative people and a lot of great junk in order to innovate, so it's fantastic. It's also great to be here with a lot of entrepreneurs and inventors. And I don't know how many know the story of Proto Labs, but Proto Labs was started by an entrepreneur inventor named Larry Lucas 18 years ago. Larry had been, prior to Proto Labs, had invented a printer, and he was incredibly frustrated while he was doing prototypes for that printer about how challenging it was to get custom injection molded parts to put prototypes together to develop that product. So after he sold that business to Hewlett-Packard, he went about reinventing how injection mold tooling is made and injection mold parts are made and automating it with software, and first invented Protomold 18 years ago. What he did like a true inventor today is he then used agile development and continued to iterate on that initial model that he got out and made more and more complex parts, added CNC machining in a reinvented way, automated with software, then 3D printing, most recently sheet metal. And so Proto Labs today is the world's largest digital manufacturer. And our mission in life is really to work with companies, large and small, so from Fortune 50 down to the inventors who are working in locations like mHUB here. And we're there to help those companies accelerate the innovations they have, reduce risk, both in launching new products as well as their supply chain, and also to help them optimize their supply chains by providing very high quality prototypes and on-demand manufacturing services at unprecedented speeds. So today, 18 years later, after Larry invented the company, we're over $400 million in revenue, a global company. We went public in 2012, traded on the New York Stock Exchange, and over $3.1 billion in market cap today. So that's what you can do in 18 years starting as an entrepreneur. So it's fantastic to be here.
Okay, Bethel New Life has been around 39 years and doesn't have that much money. Every day is an adventure at Bethel New Life. Some of you may know something about what we are. You will hear more about us over the coming months because we're doing a lot of stuff. Every day is an adventure. Bethel's been around since 1979. It was established as a nonprofit with a mission of transforming what some people would call the far west side, what I tend to call the real west side, communities of Austin, West Garfield Park, East Garfield Park, North Lawndale, communities that can benefit, Humboldt Park also, communities that can benefit from some transformation. About a little over 6, maybe 7 years ago, people at Bethel decided that let's define transformation that we have not yet seen. Let's define it as economic transformation. Over the years, Bethel's been involved in a lot of things, such as senior housing, senior services, family services, help for people who may have been imprisoned behind bars and so forth. All those things have been good, helpful services. But really what Bethel had been striving for was something impactful that would really be transformative for the West Side. So about 6 years ago, we went on a path of economic development, and I define economic development as a combination of business development and workforce development. And we believe we've been very successful in both arenas. One of the key areas, which you can see almost physically here, is there are a couple of computerized numerical control machines here in the adjacent room. These machines have been here since January, I believe, of this year. Bethel had been training people to be CNC operators in Schaumburg at our partner TMA's facility. That's great, but it's a long distance from the West Side. We have the machines here. We're doing the hard skills training for CNC operator here at mHUB, effective January of this year. That's good. That's one step in a big direction that we're going in. We've done a lot of entrepreneurship development. This year, we're doing a lot of entrepreneurship development in the areas of technology and manufacturing capabilities, thereby helping West Side people create more income and create more jobs on the West Side in that specific industry. A lot of that is thanks to a nice grant we received from the Blackstone Foundation last year. So I expect that our particular, by the way, I am on, full transparency, I am on the board of directors of mHUB. But I believe that Bethel's relationship with mHUB will continue to expand and grow and take advantage of a lot of the opportunities that we believe people on the West Side can benefit from. So that's what we're all about.
Hello? Okay. My name is Sasha Neri. I work at the Chicago Public Library. I've been part of our Maker Lab since it opened almost 5 years ago. I have the distinct pleasure of working with Chicagoans of all ages and introducing them to 3D printing, laser cutting, and we're moving a little bit more towards more open design experiences, which is a huge part of this whole process. We are excited to have opened a new space at our Woodson Regional location at 95th and Halsted, and we're looking at adding another space in the future at our Whitney Young branch, which is undergoing an awesome renovation over the next year. And I'm so excited to be part of this conversation with some people that I've had the distinct pleasure of working with over the years too.
I'm Bill Fienup, co-founder of mHUB. I'm going to keep this short because you're going to hear a lot about mHUB today. So back to you, Zach.
You're in mHUB right now. All right, so when I think about the maker movement and I think about how fast things are accelerating, for me it always comes back to digital manufacturing. If this was all happening analog or all happening by hand, we probably wouldn't be here. So what I want to hear from each of you guys is how is digital manufacturing making things more accessible to people you work with, whether it's your customers or your patrons or the people who work here at mHUB?
I can kick off
Go ahead.
as a digital manufacturer. So I think there's a couple of things that Manufacturing 4.0 and digital manufacturing is helping with the maker movement. First, it is democratizing the ability to get custom parts, whether it be an entrepreneur or a Fortune 5 company. Companies like Proto Labs and others out there, web-based, upload a CAD, get a part in as little as a day. Those types of things are enabling innovation. But the other thing that I think is happening right now, and at Proto Labs we've actually coined it Product 4.0. I think Manufacturing 4.0 is enabling product developers and product owners to innovate in a very agile way, just like software is innovated. I mean, in the old days, when software development was happening, many of you know agile software development, you get a minimal viable product out there, you see what your users think, you make it better. That was difficult in a hardware product. Today, that's not difficult. Today, product developers can have a problem that they're trying to solve, get a minimal viable product out there, hear what their customers have to say, iterate and reinvent, iterate and reinvent. That's a whole new way that product owners can look at their products. And that, coupled with the Internet of Things and connected devices, I mean, many of you may know by 2019 there's going to be 25 billion connected devices out there. I just read an article this morning on the plane in here. By 2020, they're estimating 30.7 billion Internet of Things connected devices out there. That is innovation happening. And the fact that that can happen in an agile way, I think, is product 4.0. And then the third piece that's happening as part of product 4.0 that digital manufacturing is enabling is these really short product life cycles. So product life cycle management is very different today than it was when I first started my career. There's no such thing as a cash cow anymore. And products are reinvented in an agile way. 2 to 3 years is a pretty old product these days. Things are coming out with new iterations every year when you look at wearables and robotics and drones. So we're in a totally different world today, enabled by digital manufacturing. And that's actually helping, I think, the maker movement.
So I'm going to get very fundamental. I mentioned earlier the CNC equipment that exists here in this building. CNC is a form of digital manufacturing. It's not your grandfather's manufacturing of 30 years ago. Companies that are, a lot of companies going towards CNC are companies that want to be competitive with the rest of the world in terms of their manufacturing productivity. Exposing people on the West Side to the opportunities, career opportunities, and maybe even entrepreneurship opportunities via that type of technology is critical to the kind of economic development needed on Chicago's West Side. We also have 3D printers on loan from the University of Illinois. In our facility, you have 3D printers here. Our people are being exposed to, our clients are being exposed to that technology. That technology will continue to evolve, and as it evolves, it'll provide many people, both on the workforce side and the entrepreneurship side, opportunities to be more competitive. So that's basic fundamental. These are the opportunities. That's our whole mission, providing our people with opportunities, some of which they may not have known existed and existed for them. So that's key to what we're doing.
Yeah, to build on that, knowing what exists out there is really hard if you can't see it, if it's completely invisible, like a lot of businesses tend to be downtown. So having the tools and the equipment that is affordable enough for a library or a community makerspace, it just shows people how much opportunity is actually out there. And with all of the third-party software that is so user-friendly and making these things possible, I can spend a couple months with a piece of software and I can teach someone how to do something that they never expected to be able to do. And they walk away just with a new sense of agency, and it's really beautiful.
Sasha, I actually have a question for you. So the first time I walked into your Maker Lab, we were just standing there, and I don't know, it might have been like Andrea, and some random citizen from Chicago just walked in, and they're like, "What is this place?" So it's been a few years, maybe 2 or 3 years now. Are people now coming in, like, still having that, like, "Oh my gosh, I've never heard of this before"? Or are they like, yeah, this is cool, like, I heard my friend told me? Like, what's it like when new people come in?
It's a real combination of all of those things. So when people walk in, I don't even ask them, what do you want to do today? I say, welcome to the Maker Lab. I don't know if you've ever been here before, but these are the machines that we have. We have class today at 2 o'clock if you want to join us, or if you have a project that you want to work on. And often the response is, I had no idea this was here. So like we're still getting discovered every day. And sometimes people will come in after they realize they have a need for some of the tools and the training. We had a leather worker come in last week who said, you know, I'm trying to make this stamp thing. I know you have a carvey. Can you show me how to do this? And we're like, yeah, that sounds awesome. So people are finding uses for this. Some people know it's there, but they don't have the need yet. And when they do have it, we're there for them.
Gotcha, cool.
I think I want to address the speed of digital manufacturing. Before, you used to model something with CAD software, stands for computer-aided design. So you design it on a computer, and then you would work with the manufacturer, and they would ask you for a print. So you'd create these CAD drawings, detailed dimensions, and then you would give them a piece of paper. Things have changed so much in the past couple of years. Now you just give them a file. It's literally zeros and ones that are going to their machine. And in some cases, they're doing automatic quoting, like Proto Labs is. And in a couple hours, they'll send you back a file with recommendations of how to improve your part so it can be manufactured. And that is just mind-blowing, the speed that you can develop a new product with some of these tools. It's incredible.
Yeah, so let's talk about that. Let's just say 5 years ago versus today. So I actually just read that today, Etsy, so if you go to Etsy.com, they have 45 million listings or products on their site. An average Walmart store has about 120,000 products. So if you think about the order of magnitude difference there of what's going on, that's interesting. 5 years ago at Inventables, we didn't even have easel, so we had 0 logins. It's been growing about 100% year over year. This year, we're going to have 4 million logins. So what I want you to kind of think about or talk about is what's changed from 5 years ago, like where are we today, and then what's going to happen in the next 5 years because of these secular trends.
Yeah, I think I'll continue here. So 5 years ago, I was alone in my apartment trying to build a product. And it was a struggle. So my background, I was pretty spoiled. Graduated from MIT, started to work at IDEO, worked at Insight Product Development. I had access to lots of resources, machines. I had mentors. I had a community to help develop a product. And then I quit my job, and I was literally alone in my apartment with no one to bounce ideas off of. And I had a couple of startups that failed, and I just didn't have the tools. So I noticed other entrepreneurs were having the same experience, and Zach was like, just do it, just start it. And so we rented a building and built a community that had shared tools, shared resources, and we thought the machines were going to be like what attracted people. And I guess it's still true. People like having access to $5 million worth of equipment that we have behind this wall. But really what we learned is the community is the most important. It's having people to bounce ideas off of. And the community here is so diverse. So it's not just engineers you're talking to, but people to help you launch your new business and market it. And it's a variety of skill sets. So I think what's changed is now we have mentors, now we have manufacturing network, we have the tools. We can get access to capital with those prototypes and proof of concepts. Where I see it going, I mean, we're only in it 1 year, and we have 650 users at mHUB, which is incredible. So I think this is going to continue to scale, and I think industry is going to play a bigger role because they see how we innovate here. And so I think I'll touch more about that later.
Yeah, I think I would agree with that very much so, that in the last 5 years, I think with manufacturing 4.0, there's become an awareness of the opportunities that can be created with combining information technology and software with hardware solutions. So with that awareness and some of the tools that are now available to entrepreneurs, early adopters have really jumped on that. And early adopters tend to be the entrepreneurs. And that's kind of what's happened with this maker movement over the last 5 years, enabled by a lot of the things that you see here at mHUB and other maker communities. I think as we look, and also enabled, by the way, by companies like GE and others, industrial companies who know they need to be part of this manufacturing 4.0 revolution that's taking place, need to be aware and on the leading edge, but know that they've got a lot of change that has to happen in their infrastructure. So to do that, there has to be a connection and an ecosystem. As I look at where we're going in the future, I think we're going to see manufacturing in a much broader way begin to embrace these digital models, starting in the front end of their processes with how they innovate with CAD, but then taking that digital thread all the way through their manufacturing process and even into their quality control processes by creating a digital model that connects through their manufacturing into their supply chain, into quality control, and often into their customers' quality control processes. So the connections that are going to be taking place in our ecosystem going forward, I think are going to be a next generation up. And that's going to be another powerful kind of result of manufacturing 4.0. And I think we here in the United States have an incredible opportunity to lead manufacturing 4.0 with the strength of our IT communities and our software communities, coupled with a really strong manufacturing base. So I am incredibly excited about what manufacturing is going to be here in the next 5 years.
And what I'm starting to see in terms of the people we interact with is a behavior change. That behavior change is one that says, I may need to collaborate with someone to get done what I need to get done. I may not know how to work a laser cutter, but this person over here does. So maybe there's something we can do to work together, which isn't, cooperation and trust isn't necessarily a historic trait with some of the people that we have dealt with. So building that cooperation and trust mindset, you know, sometimes they figure it out for themselves. I'm going to have to change and adopt this mindset in order for me to achieve what I want to achieve. So that's really a big part of what's happening, and I expect we're going to be seeing more and more of that.
And I would just quickly add, you know, the community has grown so much over the last 5 years. There are so many people that I can turn to when I need help and have a question. You know, the librarian network of makers is amazing, and you know, we're all looking out for each other and making sure we've got the right tools to help each other out. So strong communities, for sure.
So on the phone call when we were preparing for this panel, we were talking about some of the costs associated. So I made the analogy, I think it was like in 1999 to get a web server up, it was about $1 million. And then over the course of the next 10 years, it went down to a couple $100, maybe $1,000. So a lot of the venture capital that was raised in the late 90s was to pay for these server costs. The same thing has happened with digital manufacturing. The cost of getting access to the software, there's now multiple software CAD packages that are available literally for free. Places like Proto Labs have made it so actually getting the part, you can get it for about the amount of just one unit. You don't need to have a huge production run. So with all of these costs taken out and all of the access being democratized, what are some of the barriers that you're seeing that are preventing this from becoming more widespread adoption right now?
I'll tell you, the biggest barrier that we see with people adopting this is it is change. So becoming digital, becoming a model-based enterprise, working with a CAD all the way through your process, as opposed to doing design in CAD and then converting over into a 2D world where, by the way, the vast majority of manufacturers in North America still do that. They might design in 3D CAD, but by the time it moves over to their supply chain and they begin to purchase parts, it goes back to a 2D drawing and 2D antiquated quality control processes as opposed to taking that digital thread all the way through. The next generation of manufacturers are going to embrace a model-based enterprise all the way through their process and be digital through that supply chain so they can continue to take cost out. By becoming digital, by eliminating all those paper processes and handoffs, we're going to continue to be able to take cost out and take advantage of these models. And that's one of the things that we see as the biggest obstacle is getting people to change, getting companies to change so that they can really take advantage of these digitally enabled models like we have at Proto Labs and other simulation softwares that are now available to developers in order to reduce the number of iterations that you even do by taking advantage of software solutions to do that. So that's the next step that I think is going to happen here is embracing the change.
What do you think, Ed?
I believe that, I look around this room, the people in this room, they wouldn't be here if they didn't have some idea of what's happening in this industry or want to learn more about what's happening in this industry. I believe the people in this room represent a very small percentage of the society that's out there that just don't know what those opportunities are, and I think it starts at a young age. And I think exposing people who have not been exposed to what could be out there for them in terms of opportunities in the maker arena is really key toward the future. That's a path that everybody needs to get on, and I think the libraries are helping. I think the education system, public and private, can probably stand to do more, but I think that's the path that we need to be on.
So, okay, we got change, we got some awareness. What do you think, Sasha?
Definitely awareness. I mean, it's great, you can get all of these components for really low cost and just bring them into the library and take things apart and put them back together. And we're getting a more skilled workforce. I'm approached all the time by students graduating from college with Maker Lab experience, wanting to work at the Maker Lab. I wish I could hire them all. So really just getting a better match of that and getting that out into the community, into the neighborhoods, and showing people you can take everything apart and see what it's made of. You can do this, and you should do this.
I just want to add, I want to build a little bit on what Ed and Sasha said about a barrier, because I think you guys hit it right on. The second barrier that I think we have to be successful is to attract phenomenal talent into manufacturing. And today, people, if you would survey the general public on whether they think manufacturing is a high technology industry, and we did this, by the way, we did a study, only 15% of our adult respondents said that manufacturing was high technology. 15%. So we have got to make sure that young people today understand how cool manufacturing is. It's software enabled, it's digital, it's IT. We want software engineers to really think manufacturing is a cool place to be, because it is. It's really exciting. But we have to change a perception that's out there about the technology that's being deployed right now in manufacturing to attract that kind of talent.
Yeah, I was going to comment on perception and also education. CAD software is sort of the code for physical products. And there's a whole big 3D printing boom. Everyone was buying 3D printers. But then they realized they didn't know how to design the parts. And that's the biggest challenge of 3D printing. It's great, you can make a part quickly, but you also have to design it and customize it to your own needs. And our partners Fusion and SolidWorks are making great strides, as well as the Easel's platform, in designing your own parts and producing those. And now they're affordable. They're changing their model to a monthly fee. And so you can get Fusion free if you're an entrepreneur. So I think it's that knowledge of learning how to design your own part that's sort of limiting this digital barrier.
Yeah, so let's go on. Now that these things are free or accessible, I'm curious about a specific example that you've seen that surprised you. So a couple weeks ago, I got an email with this picture from one of our customers who bought 2 X-Carves, and he brought them out to a job site, and he designed and built out with a crew of like 2 or 3 people an entire shoe store in Venice, California. Looks nothing like any shoe store you've seen. All these organic shapes. It was completely done with digital manufacturing. He did it in 20 days for 50 grand. The pictures are just beautiful. It blew me away. I never even considered that you could do that with our tools. So I'm curious, what are some of the surprising things or a specific example where you saw this and you're like, oh my gosh, people took this technology and used creativity and came up with this thing that just blew me away?
Yeah, every day I'm surprised here. So last week I saw them 3D printing molds and using our small injection molder to make parts. So just a new way, rather than tooling up parts, which you'll get more consistency, but it's just amazing how quickly you can have a plastic part by 3D printing molds. I was also kind of surprised by the amount of community support here. And I think that's, I think there's not enough talk about the community and help. And entrepreneurs helping each other. And what's great when you're building a product, a physical product, is you can see it. And it's just so more engaging when someone's working out there on the table to go in and point out, oh, have you suggested trying this? Or let me see how that works. It's easy to start a conversation. And it still surprises me how supportive the mHUB community is to helping each other out.
Go ahead.
So I mentioned our business innovation and technology initiative that we're kickstarting this year, funded by the Blackstone Foundation, entrepreneurship development. There's this one participant in this program who has, up until now, found recycled, I'll say upper end liquor bottles, cordials and such, and has figured out a way to convert those bottles into drinking utensils using whatever elementary manufacturing capabilities he's had. With the kind of capabilities we're able to get out of mHUB, and some of the things we have at Bethel, he will be able to dramatically increase what he can do in terms of his productivity with respect to that type of product.
I'm trying to think of some of the most surprising and innovative. So every year, Proto Labs has a program called the Cool Idea Award. And we give out $250,000 of free parts to the winners of the Cool Idea Award. Any of you out there who have a great invention and want to go out to our Cool Idea Award website, you can go ahead and apply. And as we give out the money, we have some phenomenal inventions, and many of them get commercialized, just like the ones you've had here. One that I thought was pretty cool was a purse was developed that you would put your phone into the purse, and while you're walking around with your purse, your phone charges. I thought that's really cool, because how many times I've been out there, my phone's dead. And so that was launched with a Cool Idea Award, and it's now been picked up by major women's purse designers, and I cannot remember the name of the designer that picked it up. You can tell I'm not a real purse person, but this has been a phenomenal success, helped in part by Proto Labs and the Cool Idea Award and the kind of publicity that we were able to get, and it's great to help those kind of inventions come forward too. So a lot of really cool things happen every single day.
Sasha, what surprised you?
Actually, it didn't occur to me that someone would do kind of theater prop type stuff. We have someone who's assembling a bunch of pieces with cardboard, and it's painted, and so this stuff goes from a very flat material into this three-dimensional, very large, colorful, bright stuff. So it really is an intersection of art and technology.
Gotcha. All right, so I'm getting the signal that we got to wrap up. So this is going to be the last question. Lots of different people in the audience. Lots of different backgrounds, some corporate people, some entrepreneurs, some people just curious. What advice can you share to them if they're looking to learn more, get started? Where can they go? How can they interact with you? What would be a good first or second step?
To interact with us, my recommendation to all of the inventors out there is to make sure you understand the problem that your idea is going to solve, and then get a minimal viable product out there. Get out there, use agile product development, see what customers have to say, iterate, make it better, get another edition out there, and off you go to success.
I'm really pushing for collaboration. A little bit selfishly, the people in our program can benefit to some degree from certain subject matter expertise in certain areas. Not all of it technical. Some of it might be specific to a sub-segment of an industry. And you might be able to benefit from interacting with them in terms of maybe market opportunities and so forth. So this is kind of my view that I would suggest, and I think the entire industry can benefit from an entire mindset of collaborating, and because there are people who know stuff that other people don't know in general. So that's my input.
And I have a similar ask, kind of. Visit us downtown. We're at 400 South State Street, right by the red line and the blue line. Come see what we're doing. We also have a lot of programs with our U-Media teen department. We're always looking for people doing really cool stuff to inspire teens to find a new career or discover a career for the first time. And just see what we do and hang out and get to know some of the community who, they're not quite there yet, but would be really inspired by you.
I talked to several of the entrepreneurs here, and I'm going to give you the advice that I give them. It's very important to share your idea and get customer feedback. Tell everyone your idea. There's way less risk that it will be replicated, but you have to have the right idea. Make sure it's the right idea that you're producing to get it to market.
Yeah, so I'm going to tell you the same thing that I told Bill. Just go do it. So thank you very much. Let's give these guys a round of applause.
Much appreciation.
Yeah. Okay, we're going to take some questions from the crowd. And if you've gone to the website, mhub.cnf.io, you can post questions there, and we'll read those off. Oh, yeah. Does anyone have a question? I'll come by with the mic.
Yeah, I'd like to know what the main thing in terms of getting sponsors to help you drive this whole thing forward. What is the main thing that you need to do with on that arena?
Specific to everything.
Getting started, money.
Yeah. So for sponsorship, it's key to obviously have capital to get started. And I think what investors are looking for is a product concept. They want to you got to prove that you have customers and that people are willing to purchase your product, and make some traction before you can invest. And especially when we were pitching mHUB, we were trying to raise lots of money. We had to build a prototype first and prove that there was interest from the community. And that was the leap of faith that we took 4 years ago with the prototype. But we proved that there was interest, pent-up demand, and that the model was working. And then once you have proven that, then you can go out and say, look, you can show growth, you can show some traction, show you have a working prototype, and then raise from there.
I want to add to that and say that at the seed and early stage, like they're not investing in a discounted cash flow analysis. They're investing in you and how excited you are and your passion and how much you're attracting other people around you.
Thank you. With the accelerated product development cycle, what are we doing with all the waste? What are you?
So that's a great question, and I really am passionate about sustainability, and I think sustainability needs to be designed into the products that we develop so that we know how the end of life is going to be as we do the beginning of the life. And a lot of developers are doing that today with that thought in mind, is how do we manage the whole product life cycle of a product, both from start through the death. So it's a really great question.
Yes, I am new to mHUB, but my question is, what in the audience, I think there are many different entrepreneurs that they have different ideas. How does mHUB help the cross-pollination of ideas? We know that you have resources for us to make things, but how do we benefit from each other? What is really the mechanism that exists, or it could be improved to allow people to come in here and be energized and be and getting better ideas and get help from other people's perspective?
I think I can take that one. So I think really it comes down to the community here. First kind of step is when you become a member, generally they'll meet with me and I point them out to all the resources and people that can benefit. Also all our mentors. So we have about 35 mentors that specialize in different skill sets. So it's really the more that you put in, the more you get out of the mHUB community. And it's just talking, it's sharing your idea, it's getting support. It's crazy how many people, are on their one startup, and maybe a year goes by and it's not as successful as they thought, but then they end up working for another company at mHUB. And there's so much cross-pollination and collaboration. We have, lots of contractors that are helping other members. It's crazy to see how much impact they can have by helping each other out. And it's just a lot of conversation and networking and getting to know the community and helping out where you can. And the more you give, the more you'll get back for your own product. I think we have time for one more question.
So I don't know a whole lot of manufacturer, but based on the talk, I think if you think the iteration could be faster, do you think in the future we can get like more customized, personalized? Right now it's mass production. I mean, I would say in the future maybe people have a need for personalized, customized variation from your, mass production design.
Yeah, that's a great question. So I think digital manufacturing is also enabling companies and entrepreneurs to tailor their products to very, very small customer needs sets. And that's because by digitizing and really automating a lot of the front-end engineering that's associated with making custom parts, companies like Proto can actually manufacture low-volume production parts very, very cost effectively and quickly. So that, in a way, enables people to do a lot more mass customization. The total economic paradigm around low volume production is being changed with digital manufacturing.
So I actually think that the fastest growing segment of our economy is goods that are being produced for tiny niches. It's not eliminating high volume manufacturing, it's just layering on top a whole new set of opportunities for entrepreneurs all over the globe to service these micro niches.
We have a number of customers who develop a kind of a macro program, macro product, but then customize that product for individual end uses. Drones are a great example that are used in a wide variety of very unique customer set, whether you're an agricultural farmer and you want to use the drone to look at your fields, or whether you're a Canadian mounted police officer looking for search and rescue. You need some different things in those products. And there are companies out there that are customizing for those individual use cases, and it's cost effective to do that today. And it didn't used to be because we didn't have digital manufacturing. So it's really cool.
All right, that's it for today. Let's give these guys a round of applause.